record button. Welcome everyone to our CHAOSS Diversity and Inclusion Working Group meeting on August 19, 2020. Welcome. Our first item of the agenda is to determine who would like to be facilitator next week. Who would like to volunteer? We always like to rotate it and keep this fresh and exciting and new.
I thought I was facilitating last week or this week, so I think it's appropriate to facilitate next week.
All right, thank you, Matt. If you want to facilitate this week, I'm happy to let you.
If you want to facilitate next week, I can do that.
Okay, deal.
Okay.
I'll step down today and sign myself.
Did that just flipped?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I was all prepared for it anyway. Hi everybody, welcome to the D&I working group meeting. So our first item, second item of the day is to congratulate Jaya for obtaining the Season of Ducks mentorship coming up here. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jaya.
Congratulations.
Everyone.
That was just a short item I wanted to put in here to say thanks.
So I'll add to that. Shoya, this is I think the first month is the community bonding period.
Yes, it's on to September the 13th or 14th, I think. Okay.
So typically, I think I told Josh Karat, the other Season of Docs student, we all know you, so I think you're at an advantage. So you've been participating and certainly been around in all of these discussions. So I guess my recommendation is just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know if people have thoughts on that, but.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. We do, Matt, you have a badging, like a kind of a weekly meetup, is that right?
Yes, if anybody would like an invite to that, we're always glad to take people too. I think Jaya's been attending a lot of our weekly Sunday meetings and Wednesday meetings.
Okay.
But we're always welcoming anybody to come to that, so.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, our next item is the open demographics. Who has that in there?
That was me. So I did reach out to Emma, just about, so people remember there was a GitHub repository with respect to open demographics, which are I'm looking at a tauntaun at the moment. It was like distracting me. Anyway, so about maintaining a repository which has some really great information that people can use to gather demographic data. And the concern is that we haven't been able to really communicate with the original maintainers real well, and I don't think the repository has been updated recently, or not even like long ago recently. So just as a working group, we'd really hate to lose the momentum that was built around this repository and the excellent work that's done in it. So I reached out to Emma to kind of ask how she thinks we might move forward with maintaining this information. And she agreed that probably just forking it is not the best approach, just kind of maybe from being just maybe not the best approach, just forking it and being done with it. So she had suggested creating, and it's kind of in this list here, creating a CHAOSS repository, and slowly porting over some of the work, kind of piece by piece. And then kind of starting with what we feel is complete in the repository. So Georg, I don't know if you've spent, or if anybody spent a lot of time in terms of if some of the demographic items feel more complete than others. I know that some always had some discussion, but maybe some are kind of done.
Yeah, I don't have an overview right now. I would approach this by going to the issue tracker and see what discussions are open that haven't been addressed yet. And I would take that as a starting point.
It's an indicator of the ones that have issues probably aren't totally solidified yet. And
yes,
is that okay? So I'm happy to start moving this forward, like creating a repository in CHAOSS and start just kind of slowly manually porting this stuff over. I don't know what people's thoughts are on this.
Matt, would these be things that we would release like officially once we've kind of vetted and described and defined them as we do the metrics?
I think so, with full attribution to what the starting point was, of course. But yeah, I mean, I would love to make this available. I'm not quite sure how, because it's not a metric, you know, and like open demographics, or I don't know. We point to the open demographics in a lot of our metrics, so maybe it's just a kind of a cross-reference thing for us. I don't know if people have thoughts. Georg, you were going to say something too.
Oh, I was thinking about opening a repository and thinking of a name. I don't know if you want to name it Open Demographics and infringe on the work that Nikki had done, or if you want to name ours as Demographic Questions, very neutral.
Okay.
Just to, you know, respect the work that has been done under the brand Open Demographics.
Okay. What'd you call it? Demographic questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any advice for me as I'm doing this? I'm really trying to be sensitive to the work that Nikki has done, but I also want to make sure that this work continues to move forward. So I'm trying to balance these two things, and I certainly don't want to make anybody upset.
Maybe this already came up, but has anyone reached out to Nikki, or is she interested in trying to house this work?
We've tried a few times in a variety of different ways without much success, meaning no success.
Yeah, I reached out on GitHub. I reached out on Twitter. I think I even emailed Nikki. I have not heard back. And I know others have tried as well.
And it sounds like a matter of attribution then, right?
Do you know her, Justin?
No. I was just thinking about what's the most sensitive way to do it. And I just feel like the best way is, you know, is kind of the work upstream when you can. But given if we've reached out and no, I wasn't sure if we had if anyone here knew her or was familiar with her, but maybe a forking option would make sense if there's no response upstream. I don't know. I guess that this to me feels like one of those like unusual cases where like I would actually consider forking, even if it's not really great. But I think in order to not fork, you have to have an upstream to work with, and I'm not sure if we have an upstream.
No, so the work in the repository has stalled. There are pull requests open, even small improvements that have not been accepted in more than 2 years. or even received a comment. And the same with issues. There's work or comments that have not been addressed in a long time. So I don't think there is an upstream at this point that we can work with.
Maybe an idea that we could do is just open an issue with announce intent to fork or to split off, just so that way we put
That's
it
a good
on,
idea. Yeah.
we put it in the open, and maybe time box it to a month. And as long as we say that in a month we'll move forward with the decision, please let us know if you're interested in working with us. That way, at least it won't come as a shock if we do decide to fork, it won't be a surprise, hopefully.
So it would not come as a surprise. I opened a ticket in December saying that we are talking about this in the CHAOSS D&I working group, and asking whether we can contribute to the project and so on. But again, no response. So yes, I like the idea of opening a new issue saying, okay, we are ready to move on.
I like that idea too. I saw some nodding heads. Looks like that seems to be.
I think that's the appropriate way of doing it. And just, I would also, or I would still reach out to her on Twitter, but I would link to the fact that we put that in there. Just don't say, okay, we're really working on this. Okay, because the problem is so many times people put in bad email addresses for GitHub because anybody can farm them. So I would definitely hit her up on Twitter and say, hey, here's the link to it, and then let her know that way too, because she does seem to check Twitter at least monthly, while I have no earthly idea about her GitHub. So
all of us is more than data, it's life.
Okay.
That was a good contribution, Amy. It's
yes.
More data, it's life.
That was very timely. Okay, so maybe the recommendation is I can open up an issue and then Georg maybe ping her again on Twitter, kind of all at once, and then
and if anyone does, and if you don't want to do that, I can also do it too, because I'm always pinging people on Twitter too. So.
Oh, okay.
And also one thing, don't forget, I mean, if she's taking PRs, they're forking anyways. That's the proper way to do a fork. So even if we want to start working on it while we're waiting to hear from her, a fork is appropriate. So we fork, we work on it, and if she says, "Oh, people are interested, I want to continue working on it," then we just PR in back in. Fork doesn't necessarily have to be permanent.
Cool.
Okay, sounds like we still got a lot of discussion to make on this, and that issue will buy us some time on getting ready for it.
Yep, and then to Amy's point, I mean, we can fork it, and if the response is actually I'd like Nikki would like to keep it where it's at, then we can just put in a PR to merge any work that we might do between now and then back into the repo. Totally cool. Okay. And then when I get that done, I'll ping you, Salona, on reaching out to her. Would that be okay? Okay. Okay.
All right. If nobody has anything else to put in here, I'm going to go ahead and move us on along to burnout metrics. So this is something that Ruth had proposed. How do we want to move forward with these burnout metrics? This metric related to burnout. Looks like we have a document for that. So does someone, Matt, do you want to go ahead and screen share that?
Yep, sure. Hold on.
Oh, it is access locked right now.
Okay, I'll fix that too. Alrighty. That should be fixed now. Does that work?
It appears to be fixed, yeah.
Okay,
I see it
cool.
here as Project Burnout on the metric.
All right, so anyway, so Ruth and I had, from the discussion from last week, had kind of captured some of the ideas that were put in the chat and just talked about, and started building out a document. So if people could give a quick look at this document, whether on my screen, I'll hold it steady, or in the link. And it's obviously not done.
Do you want to write on this today?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Even even 5 or 10 minutes would be awesome.
Okay, let's take, do you want me to start a timer for 10 minutes?
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, start it now. So let's go ahead and write on it.
How would we describe the objectives? I'm not sure what that means.
It's the objective of the metric. So this metric is intended to help maintainers identify when burnout is occurring. This metric is intended to help contributors manage burnout better.
Okay.
Just wanted to note we got about half of our time, 5 minutes left to work on the document for today. Well, you can still work on it afterward, just
If anybody's looking for something to edit, you can take a look at the description.
Enough to edit, Matt.
All right. We have put a lot of text in here already. This is great. But we are out of time for now. We got to get to the GitHub issues at this point. So the link, it looks like we have no link yet, but can someone place a link here? I'll work on it for DNI issues.
Yeah,
and we're going to...
On this document, let me just real quickly say thanks for all the input. That's totally awesome. Ruth and I can work on this for the next week, like kind of looking to, I don't know, fix typos.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Issues are so many.
So Ruth and I will kind of, I don't know, just work on this and bring it to the group next week, if that works.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
Awesome. Yeah, it's amazing what a community can accomplish when we get everybody together in one place. So let's see. We've got a link pasted here for the issue page for diversity and inclusion. Do we want to go through some of these issues, starting with the beginning, the bottom, and work our way up? Or is that how we want to do it?
Yeah, if we can.
Okay. Let me, should I share my screen or does someone else want to share the screen?
I can, just give me a second.
Yeah. Looks like this first one we have here is has resulted in a merged pull request. Georg, do you want to provide some context on that?
On which issue?
Oh, issue number 34, sorry.
Discussion on adding extra section to the demographics. I created the merge request, so it's already done. It's already merged.
Okay. Should we check in to see if this one is closable for now?
Yeah, we can close it.
Okay. All right. It looks like we've jumped all the way from 34 to 74 after that.
So I think a lot of the, I don't know what people's thoughts are. We kind of had this discussion in the community call yesterday. So with respect to metric ideas, so we have the spreadsheet that tracks how metrics are being worked on by different working groups. And so, for example, here's the metric spreadsheet. And these are the metrics that are moving forward as being worked on by the different working groups. You can see down here at the bottom. So for example, here's Project Burnout. This is one that we're now working on. We probably need to return to, say, documentation accessibility and deliverability. Or wait, discoverability. And Garrick and I were talking yesterday. We used to have a repo that just captured metric ideas, and it was a bad repo. It just got completely, it just wasn't very good at all. So I guess the question that I would have is, what do we want to do with metric ideas? Do we just keep them as issues? Should we close them? Because we can always search closed issues for metric ideas.
We could create a forum of some sort that we accept metric ideas. I don't know. That's after the badging program and working with the forums there, I've kind of gravitated towards using forums for input rather than issues, because issues can stay open for a long time, and not be resolved, especially with something like a metric idea.
I totally agree.
Do we have a forum for CHAOSS stuff?
We used to have a Discord forum, but no one used it, so it got disabled.
I don't want to bring a whole new platform into this, but
I mean, I know this is one of the things I appreciate about the D&I mailing list is that it's separate from the other groups. Like the main mailing list, the main CHAOSS list is sometimes really hard to follow because there's just so much volume on it. I like the idea of a forum because it lets you collect more specific feedback. Like it's easier to attract folks who say they just want to talk about these things. It's a little easier to pull people into those conversations than on a mailing list.
Yeah.
But I know that's also maybe out of scope. I don't want to just something that I can definitely relate with that.
I had a quick question. Sorry, did we have a Discord forum or a discourse, or like was it the web platform or was it the chat platform?
The web platform.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. Thanks.
So, did this solve this issue?
If I remember correctly, we eventually wanted to return to the discourse idea once we had more people involved. If that might be a false memory, I'm not sure, but that's how I remember it. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. I also remember that we wanted to revisit this in the future as the project grows and matures to see if there's a need for it. Last time, the reason we set it up, and then there was a big pushback because everyone said, "Oh, but we would be moving away from the mailing list," and so I very well remember that. But maybe now is a good time to revisit that. Having a forum, I think, would be great to collect input like metrics ideas, because you can search and the search will go across all working groups, and we can organize the forum by working groups, by programs, by efforts, and it's all in one place. And then we can use the issues on the repository for specific action items that need to be addressed in the repositories.
And to build on that too, so I also am an admin of like 3 different discourse forums, and one thing I've learned is that the default settings that discourse ships with aren't always great for engagement, but there's kind of a recipe, a formula of of building a forum so you actually get more engagement. Like you can make certain topics, like say you want a D&I working group, people can by default be subscribed to the first post, the first new thread, without getting all the replies, which is like, that is so useful to me, because then if I do reply, I'll keep getting emails, I'll keep getting content, but I'll at least see the first thread, and if I want to engage, I can either go to the web. Like that's just one thing I really like. And I think when you kind of think about those things when you're setting up a forum, it does make it easier to actually get engagement. because it's just the notification really tricky on Discourse. I've found as an admin.
Okay.
Can I ask
well,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so when I worked at GitHub, I remember they used to have this thing called discussions, and I just checked their public roadmap, and they are now finally, after years, it looks like they're going to start implementing it in October or November in a beta. So that might be something that we just wait and see if that's something, because that will be integrated with the GitHub platform, and it is like a forum, if I recall correctly. I'm sure they haven't changed it a ton, but so that just might be another option. Just going to throw that out there.
well, that sounds ideal.
So could I ask a question for people? I'm not super familiar with like forums and the management of them. So would that enable us to basically take any metric in here that's marked metric idea? I know it doesn't just move, but like essentially bring them into the forum, and we could essentially archive them and search on them later. I mean, what is the, how does this work? I'm not super sure. So like if we had say 70, I don't know, whatever, 278, right? Or an event metric, 240. Like how do we move it? How would we move it out of here and into a forum so that we can capture ideas, which is cool, but reduce the amount of noise that's going on in the issues? How would that work?
Well, there's not a lot of them. I could do it manually if you'd like me to. I think this is a good thing to bring up in the community call, though, and ask the whole group.
So how does go ahead.
If it's about the technical aspect of how we move it, copy paste, as Matt Snell said. If your question is about what would the new engagement model look like, then I would structure the forum to have different tags, like we have labels here, and have a metric idea tag. And when someone says, oh, I would really like to measure this, then we tag it. And accordingly, you can filter topics and threads by this. And then we can have also groups in the forum that are for the different working groups, where we can organize the threads and topics, which I think would make sense. And then we can have other things in the forum as well that we are currently discussing on the mailing list, like the community reports.
I think personally, I like that idea a lot. And I think it kind of would just be a one extra step in our flow. Almost like when you go to submit a feature request at software or somewhere, that you do a search first to see if somebody's already requested that feature or requested, in our case, that metric, or brought up that metric as an idea. So it would be, I think, pretty easy to just kind of ask that people just search before they drop in an idea. Just search to see if it's something that we've already talked about or that has already been brought up in the past. And if it has, then add your comments here, or something like that. So I think it's more of like a workflow thing too, just asking people to do that one extra step before they submit the idea.
This all makes sense. Thank you. And so the forum would capture these ideas, but not really keep them so prominent as they are here. So we wouldn't lose the things that people are thinking about, but it also wouldn't be kind of elevated to the issue level. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think once we get to that, in my opinion, once we get to the point of where we're actually working on that metric, then we maybe have an issue for it where people can discuss the finer details. But the high level stuff, you're right. I don't think it needs to be an issue.
Okay. And I like that too, because I think listening to everybody talk, when we had the metrics idea as a repo, that's super high level, right? That's really front and center. And I think that's where it kind of fell apart. We were trying to make it bigger than it was, or that it should have been. So this doesn't lose the ideas from people, but it also doesn't create mess by trying to maintain a repo of all of these really very fluid ideas that people have. Okay. Sorry for the divergence here.
There's a lot of discussion going on in the chat, which is great to see. Yeah, it looks like we got a lot of talk about this. I think this is a great thing to either pilot or just suggest outright to the entire group, because it'd be kind of weird if D&I was the only one doing this, and we're the people representing that right now. So, do we want someone? We can just pick someone, or someone volunteers to talk about this in the community call next week.
I can.
Okay, sounds great.
I know Matt was about ready to volunteer me anyway, so now it looks like I had control over the situation.
I just realized if I point, it doesn't do anything.
All right, that looks like that's it for the meeting today. We're almost to our time anyway. Do we have, it says Ruth said she has a question after this. You can go ahead with that.
Okay, so my question is, are we waiting till after the launch to publicize on Twitter channel about D&I badging?
Oh yeah, we didn't have a D&I badging item, did we, today? It's kind of strange because we normally have that in this meeting. But our pilot testing is right now. We're looking at a September 14th release. But we have to get a lot done before then, so we'll keep you updated. Do you have any specific questions about it right now?
Like, are we going to wait till the launch to publicize on Twitter channel on CHAOSS? Like, we have a project ongoing or a project we're about to launch. So are we waiting till after the launch, then we tell everyone about it, or?
It's a good question. What do you guys think?
It is a good question, and I'm being silent because I'm thinking about it.
Is there a way for people to leave feedback if we post it out there?
That might be a good thing to put into the CHAOSS website along with the other forms, to be honest.
So just something like watch out for the new stuff we have coming up. Then also just doing that will engage, the project is not launched, but it will engage people to come check it out. Then for those still planning on their events, they can check out the metrics and put their events in order so they get the badge. So it's just something like that.
That's a good idea because we don't want to launch dry for sure. We could do a kind of a reveal of sorts, though everybody already knows about it that's affiliated with CHAOSS, but
I really like that idea. It might also enable us. One of the things that we have to do is identify reviewers, people who are willing to participate. And I mean, the hinting that this is coming, what would people think about including, like, and if you're interested in participating, let us know, kind of thing.
And the call for reviewers could come through that too.
Yeah, so for the reviewers aspect, I know Matt talked about like a criteria. I cannot actually remember, but I kind of have like some friends who love contribute, but they are new contributors. Just this should be their first time, so I wanted to know before I bring them in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We will have a process for kind of like applying for review setup by the time of launch, and definitely probably before in the next couple of days. But if you could send me an email and include them as well, and we can go ahead and get started with talking about that.
All right, sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's always really good input on badging. The community here has been really helpful in providing insight on what we could improve on. We've made a lot of changes. Well, that looks like the last item for this. We'll definitely let you guys know if you want to retweet this tweet that we send out. And I think that's it for this meeting then. Thank you all for coming by.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.